A grim murder back in 1947 is one of the most famous unsolved cases in the world. The case has been the subject of countless books, intriguing confessions and even a Hollywood film starring Scarlett Johansson, Elizabeth Short, victim of the Black Dahlia murder. The Black Dahlia case is an unsolved murder dating back to 1947. On the morning of January 15, 1947, a lady out for a walk in a suburb of Los Angeles with her young daughter spotted what looked like a mannequin cut into two halves on a patch of undeveloped ground just a few feet from the pavement. It turned out not to be a mannequin but the naked body of Elizabeth Short, who had been murdered and her corpse butchered in a gruesome manner. Despite huge publicity and an extensive investigation, the murderer was never found and the case still remains open. Elizabeth Short was a 22-year-old aspiring actress born in Boston. She was living in Los Angeles and working as a waitress while trying to get her big break into Hollywood. She led an active social life which involved dating lots of different men, and the sensationalist tabloids in Los Angeles at the time played on this and wrongly described that she had been wearing tight clothes during her last sighting, implying she was a prostitute. She was dubbed Black Dahlia by the newspapers after her murder in reference to a dark noir movie named Blue Dahlia released a year before. Splash News. Elizabeth Short was a 22-year-old aspiring actress. The last time Short was seen alive was on January 9, 1947, at the Biltmore Hotel, 6 days before her body was discovered. Her corpse had been severely mutilated. She had been cut in half very neatly at the waist and drained of blood. Her intestines had been removed and tucked neatly under her head, and a cement bag of watery blood was found nearby. Her mouth was cut from ear to ear and her body had been washed before being dumped on the empty wasteland. The only clue was a single heel print on the ground amid tire tracks. The killer mysteriously sent various letters and clues to the local newspaper, including a package purported to contain the contents of her handbag. There were numerous false reports during the murder inquiry and even several false confessions. Her shoe and handbag were later found, but not much else to go on. The sole witness reported seeing a black sedan parked in the area in the early hours of the morning and little else. One of the original detectives, Harry Hansen, said that he thought the murderer was a medical man, because of the precision in the way the body was mutilated. There have been many claims about the identity of the murderer, with one woman even claiming she was going to use her psychic abilities to solve the crime, and another coming forward to say that regression therapy had recovered memories of her father, forcing her to watch him torture and kill Short. Over the years there have been 25 viable suspects, including Walter Bailey, a surgeon who lived in a house 1 block south of the vacant lot Short's body was found in. As recently as 2013, police were still following up leads on the case. Steve Hodel, a former homicide detective, came forward claiming his father George, who was a physician, was responsible for the murder. A police dog specially trained in sniffing out human remains searched George Hodel's former home and apparently became excited by something it discovered. Soil samples were submitted for lab testing, but nothing came of the lead. Now, a British lawyer determined to find out how a young girl from Medford, Mass., got caught up in the dark side of Hollywood, believes she may have solved the mystery of Hollywood's most infamous murder. In her new book Black Dahlia, Red Rose, Pugh Eatwell attempts to shed light on Short's brutal demise based on legal documents from the case, letters and grand jury testimony. Eatwell even tracked down some of the last living people with direct knowledge of the events at the time, and came up with a theory an ex-boyfriend, who was a former mortician's assistant, did it. She was dependent on friends, boyfriends, people she got picked up by for a meal or just a place for the night. In an interview with Fox News, Eatwell said her theory was confirmed by the son of a now deceased Los Angeles policeman who was involved in the investigation. The alleged murderer, Leslie Dillon, entered Short's life by way of her landlord Mark Hansen, a shady Hollywood mogul type who seemed obsessed with the young beauty. Eatwell claimed that, like many girls seeking their big break, Short was lured by the wealthy businessman, who promised a bright future ahead. He owned a number of movie theaters in Hollywood and he was a multimillionaire, Eatwell said. He also had a number of rooming houses and his own apartment just off Hollywood Boulevard. He was separated from his wife, who had a house on the Hollywood Hills with their 2 daughters. He had a great lifestyle in his apartment, where he would invite girls if he liked their looks. He would invite them to stay with, obviously a promise that they were going to make it big as movie stars. Sooner or later, they would probably be booted out or end up as dancers in one of his nightclubs. Eatwell claimed Short was one of many girls who resided in his apartment. However, Hansen allegedly became possessive of his latest discovery. He was known to be very, very jealous of her boyfriends, said Eatwell. In fact, if her boyfriends came to see her, they would drop her off a block away and they would leave because he didn't like to see her with other men. She was, also, asking him for money. My theory is that he became tired of her and basically, "Look, somebody get rid of this girl." Eatwell claimed that legal documents revealed one of Short's female confidants confirmed Hansen became enraged by Short's behavior. There was definitely a cover-up. Even as I was going through the documents, pages were just missing and removed and Short's final days were anything but glamorous. The Los Angeles Times previously reported Short's teeth were so badly decayed they were plugged with wax. Hansen later said in 1971, "She just asked for trouble. She probably went too far this time, and just set some guy off into a blind, berserk rage." Eatwell claimed that Leslie Dillon, who worked for Hansen and had allegedly served as a mortician's assistant, was Short's murderer. Her theory was initially explored by Chief Police Psychiatrist Dr. J. Paul DeRiver. "I'm 99% confident on the basis of the evidence I see," said Eatwell. "There was definitely a cover-up. Even as I was going through the documents, pages were just missing and removed. And they're almost always connected somehow to Leslie Dillon or Mark Hansen. There are very serious questions about Leslie Dillon that can't be answered." Her shoes and purse were found dumped in the trash can shortly after the murder by a local cafe owner, and that's actually 2 blocks from where Leslie Dillon lived. The park where she was found is one he knew very well and in fact, used as a shortcut to get to where he lived. She went on to insist Dillon, an aspiring writer, allegedly preserved newspaper clippings about violence against women. Short's friend and Tothan model Ardis Green reportedly identified Dillon as one of her boyfriends. Eatwell added, "If you look at the examples of Dillon's so-called creative writing, his insecurity is reflected in those. Everything fits together into this picture of someone who has a huge inferiority complex. A physical hatred of women." Mark Hansen was very discreet about his private life. Hansen was also known to have connections with one of the lead homicide officers on the Dahlia case. And if you go through the grand jury case, it's obvious the grand jury is very, very suspicious and they're not happy with the evidence Hansen gives at all. Newspaper clippings obtained by the FBI revealed Dillon was held as suspect number 1 after he contacted DeRiver, offering to help with a book on sadism due to his interest in psychopathic cases, such as the unsolved Black Dahlia murder. Police said at the time the then 27-year-old knew minute details of the slaying of Elizabeth Short, but denies killing or even knowing her. In another clipping, police said Leslie Dillon was familiar with details of the unsolved slaying that never were made public. The Los Angeles Times reported,